To make the light up base, I started with some LEDs from a 12-volt light strip that came from something else that I scavenged. That right there is a reed switch that is normally off and will turn on whenever you put a magnet on it. And that right there is, well, that's the magnet. Right, so I had tested these LEDs earlier and they worked on 3 volts. So I didn't worry about the rest of it. And here I am just taking those surface mount LEDs and gently applying some heat and prying them off of the strip. This is, you have to be careful with it. You don't want to get the LED too hot, but it worked pretty good. Now I'm just marking a spot for where the reed switch is going to go. It's well, just so I can cut it out later. And this here, I'm cutting it out. It took a little longer than I showed in the picture, but I mean, how much time do you want to spend watching me cut? And then here I used that little burr to enlarge the strips. The cutoff wheel was good, but this got the edges a little better. And then a final little bit with a X-Acto knife. I cleaned up the edges. Now, soldering to that little surface mount LED was tricky. First of all, there is a positive and negative side, and you have to get it right. The positive side had a little nick in it, just so you knew. I tinned it beforehand so that the solder would work properly. And here, it looks like I got it the first try, but in reality, this is just the one that looked best on camera. It probably took me 3, 4, 5 tries to get it soldered on there right, so that it would hold. And there's some copper wire I used for the other side. You have to be careful, or I had to be careful because it's not insulated, so I didn't want to short things out. This was even harder to solder than the other was. And it's the same thing, probably took me about 5 tries to get it right, even though I only show 1 here on camera. So I'm not as great at soldering as it looks. After that, I needed to hog out a little bit of a space there where the LED sits. There wasn't quite enough space, so I used that same burr and just created some space for the LED to sit. And you can see me test fitting it in there right now and twisting things around so it fit into its spot. That is how it's going to sit. It's always a good idea before you glue things in to test that it works. So you can see me there lining it up, applying the magnet, and yes, the light comes on when the magnet is close to the switch. So now when it comes to putting the magnets in permanently, I really like using hot glue. It insulates things and holds it fairly well. And in case you make a mistake, you can still peel it out. Now you see there, I'm using a low temperature glue gun. This is important because then once I put the glue in, I can immediately handle it with my thumb and my finger just to smooth it out and make sure it's in the right spot. Now to hold the battery in, I am using some double-sided tape, the permanent variety. I snip a little hole in there because I'm going to take one of the leads from the magnetic switch and pop it out through there. And that's going to hit the negative side of my coin cell battery. I want to insulate it because the outside edge of that coin cell battery is actually positive and is all the back. It's just the center piece on the top that is negative. Some more double-sided tape there to insulate the wire and keep it from touching the battery. And the battery is a CR2016. You want one that is as thin as possible. You probably could get by with an even smaller one, but this is what I had. I got, once again, a test to make sure it's working. And then I can twist that wire up and over. And it turns out it's a little bit too long, so I just snipped a little bit off. It's easier to make it too long and cut it afterwards than it is to try to add more later on. And then a simple layer of tape to hold everything tight. This I just use a regular tape, not a double-sided tape. I had tried in my first version to use magnets to hold the battery in, but I wasn't satisfied with that. It was hard to solder to the magnets, and I end up using tape to hold it anyways. So this is pretty simple and pretty easy. And there, I'm giving it a final test because it is working and ready to go. And when I apply a magnet, it lights up. Now this is for my brother, who's intending to use it with Corn Horn so he can keep track of when Corn can't fire and when he can. So that's my LED reed switch base mod. There's some finicky soldering bits, but overall, if you're patient, it's not that terribly hard.